Today's guest has put into writing how you can escape frustration, align your business, and get your life back. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Alex Vorobieff, former CFO, turned author, turned consultant, turned new life maker. Is that fair to say? Yeah, I think it is. The insight he is bringing to companies, to entrepreneurs, is it's enlightening, and it is changing lives. He's written a book, which he sent me. He's also started a new print magazine called Confident ROI, Discover the Right Tool to Improve Your Company. We get into how this former CFO, he's probably always going to be a CFO. He's got that mindset. It's just deep down. But he talks about how he branched out, how he got over his introverted ways to grow his business, which I think you will benefit from. But his focus is on helping you transform your business by understanding the numbers. We talk about how most companies start at the front end where the fires are, and it's the wrong approach. So he gets into that, talks about how most companies are not synchronized and what you can do about it, how he got over his fears of sharing his ideas, how he bombed when he first spoke. But hey, you've heard me say this over and over again. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you get good at it. So Alex, he's got a great story on multiple fronts. So get ready to take some notes, and let's bring on our guest. Alex Vorobieff, all the way from Newport, California. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How are you?
I'm great, Wes. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so here's the question everyone wants to know. You go to USC, but then you go to UCLA. So who do you cheer for in the fall? What color do you wear? Do you wear that baby blue, or do you wear that maroon?
Well, I think it was never a question. I remember I went to grad school at UCLA in 2004 to 6 when USC was having a good run, and I watched many a football game on a Saturday afternoon class there at UCLA rooting for USC. So that was never in doubt. All
right. I like your loyalty. That's good. So, man, I'm looking at your history here. You've got a big background in finance, CFO on loan. What the heck does a money guy know about sales? Should we even listen to you, man?
Well, inevitably, sales is a team sport, and guys like myself who like numbers and we're analyzing things, inevitably, we don't have top line. We got nothing.
Right.
And so a lot of times we think we know everything, but inevitably.
Yeah. Why are bean counters so smug? Can you answer that question? That's even more pressing than UCLA versus USC. Why are bean counters so smug?
Well, anytime you have an asymmetry in knowledge, doesn't the one person think, regardless if it's finance, but there's been some people in the sales side who have.
Hey, look, just because we salespeople are smarter than the CFOs, I mean, y'all shouldn't be talking down to us. That's what you meant about the asymmetry, right?
What?
See what I did there?
Yeah, see that. You know how human interaction works, but it's a team sport. Sales can go out and sell, but is it going to deliver enough profitability that you're going to have a company that can support the sale, that's going to survive? And so sometimes I think with the finance side, there's a sense of, hey, this ship is sinking. If we don't do something differently, we're going to sink. Mm-hmm. And sales saying, if we don't sell, there's nothing there. But a lot of times there's a disconnect, and I'm sure you've seen the examples of, hey, sold a lot of it, couldn't deliver it, couldn't make any money at it.
Mm-hmm. How come the CFOs don't understand that I have to take my clients to Pebble Beach in the U.S. Open and the Masters? Why can't they get that through their head? That is critical to me making that sale.
If they see the return, when the return on investment's there, it's like a client buying whatever the salesperson's selling. Most times in a business sale, they got to see the return on investment. They got to be confident they're going to get a return on their investment. There's business models out there that do calculate, hey, we're going to spend money taking clients to Pebble Beach and to the Super Bowl. Financial printing, it's literally in their budget.
Financial printing, what is that?
Yeah, it's kind of going away, but you get the prospectus from a company, well, Donnelly, and there was a couple other companies. So they're selling to general counsels and to the big law firms. And so literally they got a budget. And I've been on some of these trips. You go to the Masters. We went to the Masters the day of, Thursday, and let's go to the Masters.
Now, okay. So as a recipient of that largesse, does that persuade you? Are you more likely to do business? And are these prospects taking you, or, you're the prospect, or are you the client? So are they wooing you to get your money, or are they wooing you to keep you once you're a client?
Well, they are playing on human nature of fairness. Why does a salesperson want to take a client to a good lunch? Hey, why do they want to buy him that great bottle of wine? Because we are wired to reciprocate. Now, does everyone reciprocate? No. Some people reciprocate better than others. And so it's finding the ones that do. Now, if you're accepting something like that, and I was a junior guy on the team 20 years ago when I got to go on the trip, so there was not much I could do to influence it. But that's what.
Were you a client of when you went to the Masters? Were you already a client of that company, or were they seducing you?
The company I work for was a client.
Okay.
And I was the junior guy. I wasn't even involved in the deal, so I had nothing to do with it. I was clean.
Right, but this was like client retention, client appreciation.
Yeah.
And did it work? I mean, did you have a better? Did you have more warm fuzzies for this company after going on this trip?
I'm still talking about it 20 years later.
You're talking about the trip. But, I mean, so do you still do you refer business to them or still think highly of them?
I have. And okay. I remember the name. I remember the trip, the trips. And experiences now are more and more prevalent. People don't want to get a little gadget or something.
Right.
They want to have that experience. And it burns something in the neurons that you remember it.
Now, okay, so do you remember the company or the person? Right?
I actually remember the company more. I remember the person. I don't remember his name. I'm sorry to say, but I remember the company and I remember their business model. I was analyzing at the time and how they did things because we also went to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. I'm like,
wow.
How do they do this? And you start pulling on the string and talking with them. And it's like, hey, they got a budget. They got a percentage of the fees they can spend. Now they also incentivize not to spend it. So if they're going to spend it, they wanted to get a return on their investment, and the CFO is essentially setting it up. Hey, you decide, but you get a return on the investment. You can't keep.
Yeah, I've been on the delivering end and the receiving end in financial services, real estate, high tech. Like when I changed companies, I was usually able to bring my clients with me. Even if I was, switching from Ford to Chevy, I could get my people to switch brands because they were loyal to me. So that's why I was asking, were you loyal to the company or do you feel more loyalty to that salesperson who probably 20 years from now is not at that company?
That's that question, of how does the person get it associated with them or with the company?
Yeah.
And typically the individual is the one arranging it. The individual is the one taking the interest of, oh, hey, he likes golf. Let's get him to the Masters. That's a tough ticket.
Yeah, it is.
And so to do those.
You were there on the weekend?
We were there Friday and Saturday. They didn't have the Sunday. They couldn't get the Sunday pass, but
even one day is good.
It was a good time.
Yeah, that's cool. So you spent a lot of time in the CFO world, and you're kind of still in that world, right?
I've evolved. I still do consulting from a finance standpoint, but what I found was you can get your arms around the numbers, but inevitably, if a company's got some numbers issues, that's just a symptom of something else. And so I never thought I'd be studying and talking about organizations, but when a company's dysfunctional, you got to take that dysfunction out to really improve the numbers.
Right.
And so that's where I spend most of my time now, is working with companies to remove the dysfunction, because it's not uncommon that sales and operations and finance, they all kind of got a slightly different take, or a significantly different take on what's important for the company to succeed.
Right.
And that can lead to some difficult meetings and email battles, and it's a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah. So you are kind of a broker of tools, right? Or an advisor, because you're talking about like EOS traction. I had a guy on that is in that space, and that's a powerful tool. We talk about gazelles and scaling up. I've got their book. Talking about E-Myth, Michael Gerber, because there's a lot of great tools out there, and I kind of see you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're hovering over those tools kind of like I do with CRMs. It's like there's so many great tools, and in reality, all of them can help a business if they just use them. Most people just don't use the tool fully. So do you find that is kind of the case with these other platforms where you're helping them pick the right tool? Is your job more helping them stick to the tool or pick the right tool?
Twofold. It's one, find the right tool for them. Because what happens most of the time is these tools find the business leader. They'll hear a presentation, and the salesperson, the person doing the presentation, will do a great job articulating a pain they're having. And their system may or may not actually help them. Like you mentioned, E-Myth and scaling up. Those two tools are for two different companies. But it's not uncommon. I'm sure you see it in the CRM world. People go for, hey, I want this super duper CRM. But it's like, you got 3 people, and you're only talking to so many companies.
I got a client right now. I mean, he's got Salesforce.com. I think he has 5 people in his company. I'm like, dude, that's such overkill.
And you end up taking away from people's value producing time, and you're wasting time that they're better off getting the right tool for them. Hey, eventually, they should upgrade, but not now. And because it's a waste, and then you lose credibility with your team, and you also CRMs don't work. No, that CRM didn't work for you then.
Mm-hmm.
And also, hey, what is CRM really designed to do? A CRM is designed to help you track things and determine what's working and not working, and where you're getting stuck in the pipeline. If you're not going to be able, that's what I found looking at all these tools, is they all assume you're going to look at what's going on and make rational decisions like, okay, we got a problem with our pricing or our presentation of something, or how our product's perceived, and we got to address that. That's a big assumption. Salesforce.
We're all rational. We all make very rational decisions about our business and our lives and what food to eat and how to exercise. We're all very, very logical and rational beings.
That's the assumption.
So on these tools, are you like a certified partner of each of these, or are you neutral and you get a retainer or some type of consulting fee and then just help them?
I'm agnostic and objective. I'm not married to one system in any way. I want to find the right tool. It actually I was recommending EOS Traction to one of my clients, and they asked me, well, Alex, is it the best system? And I'm like, that's a good question.
Right.
And I didn't even know, well, what is this world? There was no EOS Traction. Is it a planning system? If you tell people it's a management system, you're going to get people of the leadership team, their eyes are going to glaze over. I don't want to manage. And it was much more than that. When you get everybody on the same page, going in the same direction, trying to see, I mean, that's lightning in a bottle. And so it was figuring out what to call these and then finding out the right one for the right company. Because scaling up and EOS, they're different. They appeal to different kind of personalities.
Sure.
And it's important to find that right one because you just want it to work. And if somebody comes out with something that's better tomorrow, I want to be able to tell them, hey, this is the best today. I mean, things keep evolving, and I think there's value to bring the best thing at the right moment.
So your typical client is what, like a mid to large enterprise? Or?
It's small to mid-size, and it's typically has a leadership team or really needs one. And there's some level of dysfunction in terms of things aren't quite working. Maybe they've tried some different tools, be it on the sales side or software or planning and strategy. It's just not working, and help them find out where to start.
So how do you get your foot in the door of these clients? Because a lot of our listeners, I mean, they're calling on people the same size. That's my target market. You know, I don't want the large enterprise. You know, I want the decent size small business, up to mid-size. So 50, up to a few hundred. I do some private coaching, for executives, but it's that mid to small to mid-sized business. So what have you found that works? Or are you targeting like geographic, like nearby you in SoCal, or are you nationwide?
Well, my first 15 years, I did it as referrals, and it was primarily Southern California, but I got referrals from outside the area. In the last 3 years, that's when I started to market on a national basis with doing my book. And the podcast now, we can reach target audience. We can reach people that you never could reach before in a interactive medium. And so now it's actually taken me even south of the border. I just got back from Mexico City. My book, someone passed out my book, and it resonated, and they called me up. And so I'm taking advantage of a lot of these tools out here now to have introductions to people and allow them to contact me.
So are you helping firms in Mexico just grow within Mexico, or are you helping them with strategies to penetrate the U.S. or a global market?
It's primarily to help them identify where are they starting, what's holding them back, and what's the right tool for them, and then what's the right tool in order, what's the right sequence. So it depends on what they need. If you get to that, I've analyzing these things over the years, I think there's a sequence. And typically, most companies start kind of the wrong end I call the front end. You can see it with how your employees are interacting with your customers and your suppliers. That's typically where the fires are, right? So it's easy to focus there. But when things aren't working, it's more productive to take a step back and answer some important questions. Why does the company exist? What's it trying to sell? What problems is it trying to solve? When you answer those questions, it gets a lot easier to improve a sales call when you really understand what problem you're trying to solve and how you're solving it.
So 15 years is a good track record. Why change? Why write a book? Why do a podcast? Why grow internationally if you can hang out in SoCal and go out on your 500-foot yacht and, fly your helicopter around, man? I mean, why change?
I was frustrated. I was really frustrated because I get my arms around the numbers, and inevitably the business owner, the leader say, hey, help me take this company next level. I can see where we're making money, where we're losing money. And inevitably I'd get really frustrated, and it led to this one day at Saturday morning at Disneyland with my wife and daughter.
Say no more. If I'm at Disneyland, I'm frustrated. I understand.
Well, we would go Saturday morning, and so it wasn't too bad. And I was happy to be there with my family, but I was just thinking about work, and I couldn't let it go. So my wife and daughter said, we're going to ride. You have your coffee. And the canoe ride, I was watching the canoe ride. And there was this guy from Disney. He's probably 20 years old. And he's rowing really hard to get him clear of the dock. And you got all these, you got some motley Disney guests on the boat. Some of them aren't rowing. Some of them kind of are. And the kids are kind of rowing against the guy. And I'm like, God, this reminds me of a lot of companies. And you got the owner, he's just paddling as hard as he can. And I'm like, how long is this going to last? And he just got him off to the side. He's kind of just down below me. And he stands up and he turns around, and in 90 seconds, he takes this motley crew and gets them all rowing together down the line. It just blew my mind. And it started with he lifted up his paddle and go, this is your fun stick. This is how you hold it. He was going to tell how to hold it, right? He wasn't assuming that one hand here, you put it forward, pull it back. There's 3 rules. And number 1 is, if we don't row, we don't go. And he made them say it, and they got it. He said, number 2 rule, don't splash. The water used to be clear, but it's not. And people don't like it on the boat, so just don't do it. And he said, finally, don't stand up in a boat. Only a fool stands up in a canoe. But luckily, I'm a trained fool. So and he said, look, we're going to paddle together. We're going to sing some songs to do this. But inevitably, we're going to get out of sync. And we'll stop. We'll get back together, and we'll do a song, and we'll row. If we do it right, less than 10 minutes, it'll be easy. He got him, and boom, they took off. The guy from Disney wasn't having to do all the work anymore. And I realized how many companies I've been involved with where they don't have that level of synchronicity. I mean, they just assume, hey, you know how to sell, finance, operations, just let's go. And inevitably we end up killing each other.
Right.
And so how do you get that? And that's why I wrote the book, because this dysfunction, it gets into everybody and they bring it home. And I was tired of living and working in that way. And so it's fun to liberate people from dysfunction.
Yeah. So how did you make the change? I mean, so you wrote a book, and then did you start to change your marketing approach? Did you lead with that to get your foot in the door, to evolve from just referral based to being more proactive and deliberate about generating your own leads?
It was getting over my fear of sharing my ideas and putting it out there, because I was doing something that's very safe. I knew numbers. I could look the part, but when you start to put your ideas out there, you're going to get some pushback. You're going to get people that agree and don't agree with you. And in taking that fear and going and learning how to speak better and present it to people, bombing in front of people in speeches. I had one where this one CEO at the front, 10 minutes in, he just let his head back and a silent groan. I was boring him. And I saw it, and I was like, boy, I got 35 minutes left. What do I do? And it's like, okay, I got to get better at this.
Right.
And the next day, I joined Toastmasters. 2 years later, I went back to that same audience, and the same CEO was there. And this time I had him totally engaged. But it was willing to go learn all the different techniques. So much in business, like, if we just fix this one thing, it'll all work. But it's so many different pieces of the puzzle that you have to go and get right to get that, to make the sales, to make them profitably, to be able to do it over and over again. And it was just that acceptance of, okay, what's next we got to learn and get better at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you CFOs, man, you got to stop walking up there and saying, now please turn to page 427 on the EBITDA discussion. Yeah, you got to stop that, man. Just don't do that.
It depends on the.
No, it does not depend. Even if you're speaking to accountants, don't do that. Come on, man.
No, you're right. You're right. But are they aware of their audience? Are they aware of their customers? And in today's age, even internally, people are getting more like, what the hell is he talking about? Right? You have to engage. There's not as much of the hierarchy that when I started working 20 years ago. Okay, that's the big guy. We have to listen to him. No, the millennials nowadays, you gotta get their attention.
You got to earn their respect.
Yeah.
But, hasn't that always been the case? I mean, I think maybe millennials and whatnot, society has changed where people, maybe they're less civil. They'll just call BS on it. But, I mean, we would just roll our eyes or take a nap or whatever. We still wouldn't follow the guy. We just wouldn't tweet about how boring they are for the whole world to see.
You wouldn't tweet. It might be more subtle in how in how you communicate it. Our attention spans are barrage. Our attention there's always someone trying to get our attention.
You're overwhelmed, right? It's noisy.
And then you asked, what did I have to do to evolve? In terms of selling, I had to change how I engaged people, and they don't want to hear a long description of something. You got to grab them and give them a reason to listen.
Right.
And, hey, look at EBITDA. It's down 50%. We're not going to be able to pay our debt, which means your stock options are worthless. We need to improve. To improve. Okay, that's
what's in it for them?
It's the why. I think that's the big change. It's answering that question of why. We're always answering it for people. Why should they pay attention? Why is it important to them? Why does the company exist? Why are we doing this? It's because we have to make more decisions on how to allocate our time. That it's just pushing that.
Well, and I like what you said, that, you endured, right? You bombed when you first spoke. You understood areas you had to improve, and you applied yourself until you improved. And people just don't do that. My 20-year-old son's doing some work for me. We're doing some investing in real estate, and I invested in a program. Actually, guys, they were a guest on the podcast a couple years ago, and I got to know them, and he's struggling. But, it's the very beginning. I'm like, dude, you got to learn this stuff. If it was super, super simple, they either wouldn't share their ideas or they'd charge 10 times more for it, So they charge just enough to make sure they get motivated people in the program. But then you got to apply yourself, because most people quit. Nothing worth doing is easy. But they all just think it's easy, and it's just so many people quit. You probably see that with businesses you help. They probably, it was easy, now it's really hard. I don't know. We might just go bankrupt. And you're like, dude, you have a good company. Everybody's got to grab their fun stick, huh?
Well, it's that resignation to the situation is a common. It's a coping mechanism. Our brain doesn't like pain, so it's not always a character flaw. Sometimes it's just, look, our brain doesn't like pain and doesn't like exerting energy. So we'd rather do simple things. It's an anomaly to, hey, I'm going to endure pain and I'm going to use more energy to figure something out that's hard. That's why there's a smaller sector of people that achieve big things. They've gotten used to doing it. They use those muscles. Same on the physical standpoint. Some people have had better physical results in their workout because they want those results.
Right. So you wrote your book, and transform your company, right? We're going to link to that. But you also just started a printed newsletter. What the heck? Haven't you seen iPads and Kindles? It's all digital these days, man. Why do I need Confident ROI as a printed magazine? Tell me about that. How did you get there?
Couple reasons. One, the ebook sales are flattening for the first time since their big meteoric rise, and print book sales are going up. When I released the book and was offering it to people I knew and getting it out there, I asked them 3 formats: print, Kindle, as well as Audible. 85% were print.
And this was what, like a survey of your
No, I was offering people I knew, and whenever I was offering a copy of the book, how would you like it? And as well as the sales, they mirrored it as well. People selected the print at 85%, and they selected the Audible at 14%.
Oh, wow.
And that was mirroring what we're seeing overall. Well, we're seeing the trend towards print. But
right.
I also noticed it with my daughter. My daughter she's 10, she was 8 at the time, but she was really into the slime. I don't know if you've seen it where the kids play with the slime.
Sure.
And I think because they've been all on these iPads and computers and everything's virtual, there's a sense of wanting that tactile feel.
Sure.
And I don't think it's just in the kids.
No.
And so to have something, and how many times you like to concentrate on something, you end up wanting to hold it, right? It's tough to kind of go forward to the screen and look at it. You just don't, you're not feeling it. And so I had done the book, and the book really organizes all business improvement tools and gives you a sequence to do them. But I wanted to bring stories of business leaders trying things, and are they working or not working? Because so often as business leaders, we want to improve our business. You can only get feedback or insight from the purveyor. Mm-hmm. And hey, did this work or not work for you? I mean, for Salesforce.com, to hear from somebody go, hey, this really worked great, or this didn't work good, that's really helpful to make a decision. And so that's why I started the magazine, so I could go find out what was working and share it with people in that unvarnished way that you don't tend to get. You tend to get it just from the purveyors.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, it's cool. So you got the book, you got the magazine now. So what led to the magazine?
The magazine is bringing the stories to life. And we talked the book names what I call business alignment tools. And that includes EOS, Traction, Gazelles, eMyth, Great Game of Business, as well as bolt-on tools, the areas that focus on specific parts of the company like CRMs and training methods and hiring methods and strategy. But it can't go into everything. It's designed to be an easy read, but I want to give examples now of those things so people can find the right one. So I interviewed different people and different business leaders and found one that they were struggling. They just done an acquisition, built out a new headquarters. They just used up most of their line of credit, and now sales were slowing down. And they had been using one method to plan and organize their activities, and they ended up changing it. And within 12 months, they hit their stretch goals. And it was a collection of tools they used. And now I can share it with people. And it's, hey, this is your story. I'm not selling any of these tools. I'm just, hey, you were at this moment, and the way he described it, the challenge they were facing and the fear they had, because they'd been in business 15 years, things have been good. Now all of a sudden you're kind of getting up and you're rolling over. And they made a big change in how they did business, and it worked for them.
Right.
So I could share that with them now through that format. But while I was doing that and listening to him, I was interviewing him at lunch, and I was writing as fast as I could hear the emotion in his voice when things were bad, and then the satisfaction in his voice when they hit their stretch goals. And that's why I started the podcast, because I want to hear that. And I think letting people hear that is one of the beauties of podcasts. They can hear that emotion, and nothing connects us more than hearing that emotion. Right.
So do you have a co-host, right? It's the Confident ROI. So I see Paul Roberts, co-host. Ben. Who's Ben? Your brother?
Ben is my father.
Your father?
My father. It was Take Your Father to Work Day that day.
Oh, that's cool.
He's an 84-year-old father, and his wife was out of town, so I was in town, and hanging with him. So I'm like, come on, Dad, let's go to the radio show. And he had a good time. He's telling a story about being born in China and his family fleeing two communist revolutions. And that's how we ended up here. So.
Oh, good grief. So your dad is from China?
My dad is who's born in Shanghai, and he's of Russian descent, and was from the Russian Revolution and the Red and White War. The White Army got pushed out to Asia and Manchuria, and so that's how he ended up there. Right. And, we actually were able to go back to Shanghai 10 years ago, and we found his original apartment was still there.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty cool.
Man, it is really cool.
So we're going to do a show on him, but Paul Roberts produces my show, and he's got a studio and makes it really easy for me to do it. And,
yeah, very nice. So we will link to that as well, the Confident ROI podcast. We're going to link to your book, link to your magazine. So, man, final question I like to ask, imagine our listeners are on a train, they're on a plane, they're mountain biking, they're on a treadmill, they can't take notes, they can't really do anything except listen right now. What should they do, though? As soon as they get to their desk, as soon as they get to their car, they land, what should they do as a result of listening to this to move the needle, to improve their business, to improve their sales? I want them to take decisive action as a result of listening to this.
I want them to start listening what do they hear in their head when things don't go according to plan? When the person doesn't want to go through with the deal, or they don't get the results they want. I want them to listen. And are they asking questions? Like, what can I do to improve? What went wrong here? In an objective manner? Or do they hear statements? Oh, they were never going to buy from me, or, this product sucks, and they're kind of blaming things. And are you asking good questions, or are you making blanket statements? Because you're making blanket statements, nothing's going to get better. And if you can start asking those questions, those answers might take you to some different places, but thought out answers, objective answers are a lot more powerful than this sucks, that went wrong, I can't control this. You got more chance to be successful with the question.
Yeah, that's great. And they say it doesn't matter what the truth is if you're asking the wrong questions. Right.
And whatever that answer, the truthful answer, can you deal with it? I mean, there's something to you can't handle the truth.
Yeah. Most people can't, right? I mean, salespeople, it's like, why'd you win that sale? Because I'm a great salesperson. Why'd you lose that sale? Oh, the company sucks. The pricing is no good. The compatibility, this interoperability, we haven't had an update. It's like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Sales is a team sport, and coming back to the CFO and the operations and having the credibility to explain what you saw, what could we do better, what things can help us. Because you don't want to get to that point where the CFO is droning on you're trying to get everyone to submission to do better because we're not going to be able to pay the debt because we couldn't work together to find that right combination. And the combination changes all the time in today's world.
Sure.
Businesses catch up and pass ones that seem to be untouchable a lot quicker than they used to.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Alex Vorobieff, all the way from Russia through Shanghai and now Newport, California, man. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast. It's been great.
Thanks for having me on, Wes.
I love how this CFO, this numbers kind of guy gets into, paying attention to your self-talk. When things don't go as planned, are you asking questions in an objective manner, or are you making excuses? Resignation to the situation is a coping mechanism. Our brains don't like pain or exerting energy, so we stop pushing. And, I've known this for a long time. I've been a student of human nature for a long time, played sports all my life, doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. I do this Tampa Bay Frogman swim. The training for these are tough. The first time I really got after it, I had a lot of self-doubt, negative self-talk reading a lot of books on sales, on marketing, even on survival. Just about finished with a book called Deep Survival. He talks about what's the difference in survivors and those who die. And it's the thought process. It's what's going on in your brain. And as humans, we don't know the difference between a real threat and an imagined threat. That's why you jump at a scary movie. When you hear the cello, don't, you know that the shark is coming, and you get anxious. Even though you're hanging out, on your couch with popcorn and safe little home, you jump. You get scared because you place yourself in that situation. But what happens is in business and sales and life and sports, everything, it's a head game. So you're talking yourself out of things. I mean, even right this second, I'd kind of plateaued in jiu-jitsu, and I had a private session with our instructor. And it was great to spend one-on-one time with a guy that's literally number one in the world. But his emphasis was on the basics, on the fundamentals. He showed me things I've seen over and over and over again, but I got to see it up close and personal and practice it repeatedly for an hour. And then I went back last night and got to try it. And sure enough, it worked. It worked even against other black belts. I'm a blue belt. These guys are so much senior to me. Now, I did not crush the black belts, but it was a good position for me to be in. It extended the match. When these guys might normally get me in 20 or 30 seconds, it allowed me to get into a better defensive position, because like they say, the best defense is a good offense, right? He showed me how to attack simply and repeatedly and effectively. And so by going on the offensive, getting into a good position, it gave me more time to work on things. And I did it over and over and over again. And he showed me, how simple, how effective it is, and how to get back to that position from any other position. And I see it all the time. I see it in business. Basically, it's chasing the shiny object syndrome. It's true in business. It's true in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's true in everything. You want to get fancy, and then the basics suffer. So who do you have pushing you to get back to basics? There really is no hope for you if you don't have a good coach in your life, a good mentor, a good consultant, a good advisor, somebody you trust, somebody that's kicking you in the pants to go forward, to move ahead, to move forward with confidence, to pick yourself up when you fall. If you don't have that somebody in your life, I feel sorry for you. And yes, there's some bad ones out there. Yeah, you got to kiss some frogs to find the prince, but that's fine. Every time you find a coach you don't like, then you know what you're looking for. You know you'll know the signals, the signs to use to weed out the next potential coach for you. But you got to find somebody. Okay, and these don't have to be super expensive. I've been in programs $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 a year, and really those were rarely worth it. Finding people that I know, like, and trust and respect, but don't just find a group or a coach that is going to make you feel good by just saying nice things. Find someone that will push you. Find someone that will tell you you're not doing it correctly. Fix A, B, and C by applying D, E, and F. Go do it now and report back to me. If you're not willing to be held accountable, then I hope you enjoy where you are, because you won't go any farther, at least not without a whole lot of effort. But if you don't like where you are now and you had to apply even more effort, then will you really even enjoy where you get to? It's not worth it. It's too hard. Okay? So find someone, find a team, find a group, create your own mastermind group if you need to. Create your own online Facebook group, your Slack channel, whatever. If you need some pointers, if you need some help, check out Make Every Sale, makeeverysale.com. It's the most affordable program I know to help you grow. where you get direct access to the founder every single week, live, interactive, every day through the private group. All right, it's not filtered. It's not monitored by a bunch of lackeys. It's run by me. So come check it out, makeeverysale.com. When you enroll online, you only pay $47 right now. And you get my book, you get the sales training flashcards, you get my 2 CDs, you get immediate access to the 41 videos, 4 weekly calls, and the group. Then you decide if it's for you, if you want to stay. And then it's totally affordable still. You have a one-time payment or 12 payments. So come join us, all right? Makeeverysale.com. I'm starting a big campaign of marketing to associations. So if you're looking for a speaker, if you run an association, if you manage an association, if you are on the board, if you're helping schedule the next event, you're looking for a keynote speaker, you're looking for someone to lead some breakout sessions, give me a shout. Okay, HireTheBestSpeaker.com. HireTheBestSpeaker.com. I will customize the talk for you. Your people, your attendees will be engaged. They'll be happy. They'll get stuff out of it. Okay, I guarantee it. And then, as always, if you want my sales training flashcards for free, leave me a 5-star review, take a screenshot, email me, wes@thesaleswhisperer.com, and I will send you a digital version of it right to your inbox. Okay, I sell these for $20 online. And I'll send you the digital copy for free. Give me a review, share the podcast, help me spread the word, would you? The more people that listen, the more I can help for free. That's how this works. Thanks for listening. I'll go sell something.